Verena. I'm one of the two founders of Kitchen Stories. We are a Berlin-based startup, 6 years old, and we want to make anyone cook.
This episode is brought to you by WHU, the Otto Beisheim School of Management. WHU is reshaping the way students learn about business, management, finance, and entrepreneurship through its innovative programs and partnerships in Germany and across the globe. To learn more about this globally ranked university, visit whu.edu today.
Hey folks, Gerrit here. In this episode, we introduce Verena Hubertz, WHU alum and co-founder of Kitchen Stories. Kitchen Stories provides delicious, step-by-step photo and video recipes through their beautiful and user-friendly web and mobile applications. Today we'll be discussing Verena's founder story, creative content creation, being tech-focused, and so much more. As someone who loves to geek out on cooking videos online, I had a blast making this episode. Hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
Coming to you from WHU on the banks of the Rhine River in beautiful Vallendar, Germany. This is the best and most awesome founder podcast. A show about entrepreneurs, innovators, advisors, and educators, and the stories that make them who they are today.
Well, Verena Hubertz, thank you so much for having me in your lovely offices here in Berlin. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you for quite some time. You are well recognized around WHU, and I think everybody loves your business. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Thanks for coming over.
Awesome. I'd like to start talking to you a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. It's something that we do with kind of all of our guests on the episodes. Understanding a little bit where you come from and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So basically, I was never in touch with entrepreneurship prior to studying at WHU. So I'm born and raised in Trier, not too far off Koblenz, where WHU is based. And I only joined WHU for my master studies. And during my bachelor's, I did a couple of internships in big corporates. And I always knew this is not what I wanted to do. But I didn't really connect the dots and felt that the entrepreneurial journey was something that this is what I want to do. But at WHU, I got in touch with the whole startup ecosystem. I met founders who were telling their stories, and suddenly I realized, wow, there's another way to how you could build your career and build something that you are passionate about. And then at WHU, back in 2011, I also met my co-founder Mengting. And she was a lot into entrepreneurship, looking into different ideas already after her bachelor's, which she also completed there. And she wanted to start her company, but didn't really have the perfect founding partner, not the right idea. So luckily we met, and we were actually looking into a burrito chain first. So bringing Chipotle over to Germany. That was the initial idea. Luckily, we didn't do it because restaurant businesses are really hard to scale. But this idea actually made us move to Berlin. Because I studied in the US, in Nashville, Tennessee for half a year, and I fell in love with burritos. We have the WHU people who started Verts in the US, so we kind of thought kebabs and burritos, kind of opposite, would work. And then we came to Berlin summer of 2013, and we were looking for restaurants, and we're planning on a business case starting a burrito chain.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Well, as someone that grew up in Texas, I would say Tennessee doesn't have very good burritos, but it's an idea that my family and I have been talking about for 20 years. There was never good Mexican food here, but you're right. The restaurant business is a tough one. Yeah, indeed. So how did you go from the idea of doing a restaurant into what you're doing now?
Yeah, then we had our flat, our Gründer-WG, and then we're sitting there dismissing the burrito idea, and then we did what we learned at business school. So basically screening markets, screening industries, looking into healthcare, fashion, food. But we only ever got excited when it was around food. It wasn't rational, nothing. It was just what we were both really interested in. And Mengting, my co-founder, she was always watching cooking shows online on YouTube, like Sarah Carey, Laura Vitale, more American, faster formats. And I was like, well, I would need a video like this in order to cook. And Germany was all about long TV, Lava Lichter formats. And she said, well, that would be awesome, but I don't cook on YouTube. It's not usable to pause and play, and the recipe is in the description. So isn't there like a good app where you have video and the whole user experience from shopping to inspiration that actually makes it easy for you to cook? We looked into the App Store. There wasn't any cooking app that we liked. They were all kind of ebook, PDF-like, and we felt this can't be it. Let's build the best cooking app out there that the two of us would want to use.
Were you particularly into cooking before you started this business?
No, so I'm actually somebody who really needs kitchen stories. So I was always confused when it said dice it up, cook until it's done. So I'm more like a newbie, and I need guidance, and I need step photos, I need videos. And Mengting, she's a hobby chef, so we wanted to build a product that the two of us would want to use.
Did you start with mobile then?
Yes.
With the idea was to make it more accessible in the kitchen and not having a laptop sitting next to your stove? Or?
Yeah, and we also saw the whole trend about desktop traffic declining. We live and breathe our smartphones these days. The iPad was coming out back then. And also, if you look into the market, we were entering the recipe market. Everybody has recipes, publishers, TV companies, appliance companies, the FMCG industry, like recipes are not needed anymore. And online, you can't compete with 100 recipes if there's pages like Chef Koch or All Recipes. So we wanted to enter a saturated market with a better product. And the best product offering for us back in the day was the iPad, because it was kind of bringing an offline cookbook into the digital world. You could have beautiful large photos, nice design, great UX. And it was also the only way we could afford to enter the market, because as you might imagine, we're like 24 years old, 25. And we were we built another business plan, another pitch deck, and we were contacting business angels and investors. And they said, guys, have you ever built an app? Have you ever done a recipe? Have you ever done a video? And you say, no, we studied business. And they said, well, good luck. Why can you do a better job than Dr. Oetker or Nestlé or Bosch? And you say, well, look at it. There must be a better digital product. And then nobody wanted to invest, so we decided. So we were actually thinking about, do we find a job now in the corporate world, or do we just do it? And we decided to bootstrap, sell Mengting's car, do the Friends Family Fools round, 25K, start a German GmbH, and then get it going.
I'm always interested in, the first mover advantage versus other businesses kind of priming the market. And forgive me, I don't like talking about, maybe they're not competitors, but in the US, there's been Epicurious and Tasty and some of these things. Had they established presence in the US markets yet? Did you have something to point to, or were you ahead of the game and having to present this as a very different concept?
Those folks were already out there in the US. We didn't have anything like this in Germany. And I think what also distinguishes us from Tasty or Tastemade and stuff is they, back in the day, were focusing a lot on catchy social media food content. And for us, it's all about the cooking journey. So how do you embed shopping? How do you really get people to cook and not only to see a great melting cheese video on Facebook. So to bring content and tech together to also think, and that's also our future of where we want to head, about personalization and us telling you what you can cook tonight until before you can actually tell me, because we know what's in your fridge, we know what you like, and those two things coming together. Yeah.
So would you call yourself a technology company or a media company? A technology?
Tech company, yes, definitely.
But you're really in the business of content creation and content marketing, yeah?
So we do have 50 employees now, and a large part of the team is tech and product. And we also have a business intelligence team constantly analyzing the data, the user journeys, identifying trends. And of course, the beauty is that we do have the content creation part within the company as well. But we're really tech-driven. We analyze, for example, the most important KPI for us is the cooking index. Because only if people, our users, cook a recipe, they retain, they return, they share. And we definitely want to transfer the recipe into a machine-readable code. So we know what's easy for you might not be easy for me. What you like as an ingredient is nothing that I might like. To come up with personalization in the food context, and this is a whole tech game. And a lot of tech companies try to solve the issue, but they don't want to do content. So you need both in order to solve the cooking case, at least.
Can you share a little bit for some people that maybe don't know your business very well? Talk a little bit about the business model itself and how it makes money, I guess.
Yes. Starting off with 100 recipes and bootstrapping, we made money pre-launch already. So we called up our favorite brands like KitchenAid, Le Creuset, and Landliebe, Rosenthal, and we convinced them to be our partners in terms of product placement. And they paid 20K, not in products, but in money pre-launch. And having 25K and making 20K is great if you are just about to launch your product. So Kitchen Stories monetizes on a B2B setup, starting with product placement, moving now over in the last couple of years to branded entertainment, branded content. So an example is we would do a baking campaign together with Dr. Oetker, because we can tell Dr. Oetker, we know what recipes are trending, what people are looking for. We come up with a storyline, for example, around Mother's Day. We develop the recipes. We can also analyze the data afterwards and tell you who was baking which cake and what else the user is interested in. So it's something where they would normally engage with a couple of agencies. And for us, it's all out of one hand. So it's content, it's media, it's insights. And that's our B2B-driven business model. But of course, we didn't start a company our dream is to build a company where the user, the B2C user, is actually seeing a value where they are willing to pay for, because the product right now is for free. You don't pay and you can do whatever with it. But we see a lot of subscription model revenue potential moving forward of problems that we can solve in the kitchen of the future. For example, meal planning, some add-on features. So we want to come up with more like an Amazon Prime approach and bundle a couple of premium features and make you pay €2, €3, €4 a month. And then that's a complete new revenue stream, and we're not there yet, but we're just about to pilot the first features.
That's the great thing about cooking is everybody does it, and we always have needs. Yeah. I had a business in the loyalty space, and for us, the holy grail was the grocery chains, because it's a recurring spend. It's where we shop most often. So it's I imagine there are so many opportunities that you can expand into.
Definitely. We have a large platform, a lot of traffic, and you can monetize in various directions.
What's interesting, I think, is that you started off with a business model that was B2B. And my gut instinct is that was strategically brilliant, because it allowed you to focus on really a primary metric of attracting users more than anything. The more users you attracted, the more revenue you could charge the B2B. Definitely. Did that streamline your operations early on?
Yes, definitely. So we were actually thinking about whether we should turn the company profitable or scale, because definitely there's a lot of value in the B2B side. But if you want to monetize via the end consumer, you also need to invest in tech and the tech team. And it's really slow if you can only ever hire one more developer if you get one more customer in. So we also decided to go for venture capital in order to build all of that data ontology in order to have the opportunity to monetize our assets on the B2C side.
I want to ask you about venture capital in a second, but I'd like to ask you still about the bootstrapping side of things, because you built a technology company. From the sounds of it, neither one of you were coders or developers or engineers. You got a small friends and family round to get this thing off the ground. One of the things I see with people coming out of business school particularly is we need a technical co-founder, we need developers. How did you go from not having that experience to building technology? How did you find the technical talent to help build your company?
Yeah, I think not having a lot of money makes you solve the issue. So we chose the iPad because it was a really limited launch platform and something that we could have a student develop. So we were traditionally looking into Xing and LinkedIn and just contacting students who said that they would be good iOS developers. So we found our first iOS developer, told him to develop the iPad app. It took him 1 day a week, 5 months. And we could afford him, because you can't hire like a full stack person to build iOS, Android, web at once, and really to focus on one thing and make it right. Because what did investors say? We don't need another cooking app. And your MVP can't be a little bit of a pitch mock-up setup. You really need to have a product in your hand and feel that it's better, that it is a better user experience. So the iPad with the student developer, and then we had a young design agency that Mengting knew from one of her startup internships. So connect as much as you can so you know people to contact or who to ask for once you need the resources and the people. Then we had 2 chefs that we found on LinkedIn. We told them to develop 100 recipes. We test cooked all of the recipes in our home kitchen, in our Gründer kitchen. And I was cleaning dishes. Mengting was the hand model, and that's all we needed to get started. And we had an Airbnb place in Brandenburg outside of Berlin, because obviously we couldn't afford a show kitchen in the middle of the city.
Man, what a fun startup experience.
Yeah,
I bet you did a lot of good eating. I can show you some timeline
photos later. This is actually quite funny. Yeah.
That is awesome. I am curious about your capitalization as well. It sounds like you kind of rolled the stone down the hill a little ways before you decided to capitalize. One of the stories I hear so much in Germany still is start a business, first thing we do is we take on investors. Yeah. I've made that mistake once before myself, and it changes the way you live as a founder. Can you tell me strategically how you kind of went from bootstrapping to deciding to take on some bigger money?
Yeah, so it took us 5 months bootstrapping the company until we launched. And then we wanted to speak to investors again once we could show traction and once we could show the product. And we could have raised money pre-launch, but it would have taken us probably a year because we didn't have any track record and nobody was convinced of the business model. So it would probably been some dentists or golf people we would have found along the way. But we believe that we can create more value by just going the risk away, proving that it can work. And we said, if this fails, then we will just... What is the risk involved in the early days? It's like a gap year, basically, if you do it right out of uni and you have like limited funding involved. So we believe that we could create a higher value and easier ways of raising capital once we are live. And we knew that we needed some external funding in order to really scale it up, because development is expensive. And as a startup, you also don't want to be slow. If you believe in the market and if you believe in your product, then you want to accelerate your vision. So what happened? We launched Kitchen Stories on the iPad in February 2014, and we called it a silent launch because we couldn't really do any QA, code control, because we couldn't code, and we were afraid that it might break down. So once we hit the submit button, we didn't tell anybody about it and just wanted to see what happens. And then we got an email by Apple and they said, hey guys, we like your app. And they featured us as best new app we started in English and German right away. So we were featured in 10 countries. And this gave us 60,000 downloads within the first couple of weeks. And then suddenly all the investors that turned us down in the very first place, they were coming back to us and said, if Apple likes it, it looks really cool. Can we be part of it?
Wow. So did you not execute a strategy for customer acquisition? I imagine you didn't have a lot of budget and you were trying to push it down the road before you raised capital. Customer acquisition, especially in the digital space, can be expensive. I think a lot of people build apps and think, if we build it, they're just going to show up. Is that what happened in your case? You just kind of put it out there and Apple picked it up and that steamrolled you, huh?
Yeah, but we, of course, set some money aside for like a marketing campaign, but luckily we didn't need it. And still until today, we have generated 18 million in downloads and we haven't spent a single cent on marketing yet.
Wow, that's incredibly unique. What do you think the secret sauce is? What made you? Was it a great user experience? Was it a timely app in the marketplace?
I believe our marketing spend is our tech investment because let's say there's a new Apple product coming out like the Apple Watch or Apple TV or iOS 13. They always need publishers, developers to embed the latest Apple or Google features. And us as a startup, we can be really, really fast. And all of our tech people, they love new technology. So they know that the dark mode is coming and they want to play around with it. And by showcasing the best, like always being the first in the game and using and implementing the latest features, this is actually our marketing invest because this gives us a continuous relationship to Google and to Apple and giving them a reason to feature us and connect.
When Apple picked you guys up the first time and it got you the 60,000 downloads so quickly, did you get a sense from them of why they decided to kind of pick this early stage startup out of the millions of apps that are out there?
They don't tell you, but our whole app was like a native iOS app. We perfectionized it for the iPad, so everything was like flat design, and they love content, and they also love the startup story. It's not like a big publishing company coming along, but a startup trying to live their dream. And via the ecosystem of the Apple App Store, you can be global from day one. And they also like to have because the cooking market is very fragmented. There's all recipes doesn't operate in Germany. It's but we eat so international. Like we go to international restaurants, but every platform is basically national. And that's also something that they like because they always look for global partners for global campaigns. And we also had Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, coming to our office 2 years ago, and it was one of the most amazing moments.
Wow. And what's your reach now globally? Obviously, Germany is I imagine is your strongest market. What are your other kind of strong points?
China and the US, actually. Yeah. So we, with the first funding, we internationalized Kitchen Stories in 10 more languages. Amongst them, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Russian, Spanish, Italian, French, and China took off.
Well, is it because the Chinese are very interested in German cuisine? I imagine you're not showcasing Chinese cuisine for the Chinese market, or
so they are interested in the Western cuisine, and we do have a lot of. They only know cheesecake from Starbucks, they know pizza from Pizza Hut. So we give them the original recipe, but also we do some Chinese recipes that they love. For example, for Chinese New Year, and we can leverage that content here in the Western world because everybody loves dumplings. So we don't see the reason for borders in the food space and the food market. So it works both ways.
Do you have any particular recipes or stories that you guys have put online that have been the biggest successes?
Yeah, I mean, one of them is the Manhattan cheesecake. It's one of the first 100 recipes. It's been cooked and prepared so many times already. Then what also always works really well is like one-pot dishes. We have like a one-pot pasta that's a really successful one, or the buttermilk pancake. So everyday, delicious, and easy to prep recipes are what our users like 80% of the time. But we also have like some fancy stuff for the festive seasons. Yeah.
Hey, I saw in your app today there was some like Julia Child recipes, and I was thinking that's probably a little more intensive than a one-pot crock pot recipe.
You need both the aspirational content and the everyday content.
So what are your demographics like? Is it mostly young people that are looking for these more simple dishes, or are you getting is it a pretty broad range?
Yeah, so our target persona is between 25 and 44. So first job, uni just completed, kids are coming, and you need everyday variation, how to organize organize your week, what you can also bring to work as a lunch, but what is a nice weeknight dinner. So family cooking that's more our demographic, but we also have the young people, the 16 to 18 or 20, who don't know how to cook, and they are trying to do some first recipes.
I brought some WHU students to my hometown of Boulder, Colorado this summer, taught a class there, and one of the people I introduced them to is a VC that specializes in the food industry, and we were talking to him about some of the trends that they're investing in particular. Meatless meat is a big one. Keto is another big one. Are you guys kind of tracking some of these cuisine trends and nutritional trends and following them as well, or are you focusing more on, the quality and the taste of the food?
We don't want to be an app for vegan recipes or like any specific diet, because we believe in the broad scene of things. But of course, we do get a lot of requests for paleo and other cuisines. And what we want to do, and this is also an important strategic step that we completed this summer, is that we opened up kitchen stories. So we opened it up for user-generated community content. So users, bloggers, and brands, they can upload their own recipe on kitchen stories. And if you're looking for keto, then there's a keto recipe, because there will be users sharing their recipes. And ultimately, if we think about our vision of providing you with the perfect recipe in the perfect moment, you need more content than you can create editorially. So the quantity needs to be larger. So it's we will be catering these instances in the future, but not with our own editorial power.
The idea of integrating user-generated content is interesting, because it creates the quantity of information, but it can sometimes compromise the quality. I always think of Airbnb as the classic example, right? Where they ended up having to bring in professional photographers to people's homes before they could really start getting market traction. How do you deal with the quality of the content? And you might have low resolution. And I mean, you have such beautiful imagery and videos on your platform. I imagine you get a lot of content that doesn't look like that. How do you find that balance?
So we have an editorial review process. So every recipe that's being submitted needs to be reviewed. And then, of course, you have the quality differences. Some are beautiful, some are, I would say, mediocre. And but 30 to 40% of the recipes look really, really great. Like people put a lot of passion and work into getting a good quality. And we also want to teach our users how to improve the photography of their home-cooked meals. But what we do, of course, is that we curate the front feed. So if you open up Kitchen Stories, you will always find Kitchen Stories recipes and a hand-selected variety of community content. And then if you search for a recipe and there is no Kitchen Stories recipe, there's no Kitchen Stories blogger, partner, or high evaluated recipe, then then you can choose if you want to take that recipe, or you choose the Kitchen Stories alternative that might not be it, but is from a professional environment. It's kind of like the Apple App Store. The first page always looks beautiful. Because it's the most downloaded apps. Apple also has some apps, but if you search for something like maybe some rock climbing, fancy niche product and nobody provided it, but that little guy from Munich, and it's ugly, but it still serves its purpose, you can still decide if you want to use it or not. Yeah.
So I want to bring it back to your entrepreneurial side. I could talk cooking all day, but we've got a lot of people that are listening to this that are potentially in the same position you were 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I guess, 6 years ago, and thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, looking at different markets and different opportunities. I think the times are evolving quite quickly these days. What kind of advice do you have for, let's say, someone who is in your position in WHU that is aspiring to get into the digital game? Do you have some lessons learned that could be really valuable that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think 3. One of them, definitely to find something that you're passionate about. I mean, some people are incentivized by a business model. Some people are incentivized by a topic. But you need to be eager to really find your way in the market or the problem that you're willing to solve. Because most of the time, and this is my second tip, things go wrong. Your first business model, business plan is not going to work out. So persistency is, I think, the most valuable thing that you need as a startup founder. And coming to startups always looks so much fun. People playing table tennis, fun offices, Club Mate and free beer. But most of the time, it is things not going right and things going wrong and screw-ups and persistency in order to believe that you will find a way in the market with the right team, which leaves me with my third recommendation, which is find the right team and partner to start a company with. Because that's also what some investors told us. I'd rather invest in an A team with a B idea than a B team with the A idea, because the A idea might probably not work out, but a good team is going to find a way in the market. And that's why, for me, Mengting and we perfectly complete each other, because she likes the whole product and content side of things, and I'm more into the business side, so sales, finance, HR, and the legal aspects, so that's working really well. And we were also friends, which worked out well for us. So it's not like a casted group of McKinsey consultants that get to start a company with some external funding.
Well, you said so much there, so many things I could unpack. But one of the things that I'm interested in is, you starting the business with Mengting, you guys were both in business school together. did you already have a sense how your roles would diverge and what your strong points were? Because the reason I'm asking this is, especially at WHU, you have a group of students come together. They want to start a business. There might be 2 or 3 of them, and they're basically the same person. They have they have the same skill set, right? So you guys came from the same place. Did it take time through the business to realize that you were going to be more on one side and she was going to be more on the other?
Yeah, it was a natural split because Mengting is really strong with design and also back at school building PowerPoints and has a good feeling for products and user flows. And so it was a natural discussion that I wouldn't be doing mock-ups or screen designs. And also as the cooking newbie, that's not natural to then build a cooking app. But she was like such a heavy user of like all the apps out there. So we actually didn't also look only into cooking apps. She looked a lot into Airbnb, like apps where she loved the UX side of things. And that came completely natural. And for me, being in sales was more like okay, we now need to convince the corporation partner. So you do it. And I like being out there, talking to people, pitching. So luckily it came naturally. But for us moving into this, and maybe it's also good not to overthink things. We had the burrito chain as a trial if we would work out as a team. Because being friends doesn't mean that you can work together. And dismissing that idea, we knew we work as a good team and we complete each other. And now let's look for an idea.
Awesome. It's interesting you said Airbnb because when I opened your app, it reminded me of that. It doesn't look like Airbnb, but Airbnb has this really elegant and clean and simple aesthetic. And I feel like you guys captured a little bit of that as well. The one other thing I wanted to ask you is you talked the first point that you made, which is passion. Yeah. So are you now a passionate cook?
When I cook, I am really passionate about it. I unfortunately don't get to cook that often, but I'm passionate about food, and that is really something that I love to be involved in. And I'm, I think, still a good test user because if I get to complete the recipe, then it works.
Awesome. I love to hear that because so often entrepreneurs are thinking about how to transform business, but it's really cool sometimes when the business actually transforms the life of the entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I've got a couple questions I want to wrap up with. I'm sorry in advance if they're painful, but I ask everyone these and actually usually get some interesting insights. So the first one is if you have a book on your bedside table, or perhaps in your kitchen in this case, what book are you reading right now?
It's actually quite an interesting book by a young journalist from Zeit, a German magazine. And he wrote a book. He has roots in Morocco. And he came to Germany when he was like 9. And he wrote a book about how it is to be, it's called Unter Weißen, how it is to be raised in Germany if you obviously don't look. And this is, of course, what is German these days. But if you look like you were born or you have some heritage from an international country. And it was really eye-opening, like writing about racism out of his view and how people behave and also to challenge my own behavior after reading it. It was really, really impressive. Yeah.
Boy, that's a relevant subject right now, too.
It is. And it's also with Mengting. I mean, her having been grown up in China, we also get some remarks every now and then. And it's just, it shouldn't be the case.
Awesome. All right, one more. Since you are in Germany's music capital, what's on your playlist right now?
A German singer, T.S. Ullmann. He used to be the singer of the band Tomte, and he just released his third solo album, Scientist und Junkies und Scientologen. And currently listening to him.
Awesome. Well, Verena Hubertz, thank you so much for inviting me here, taking the time to tell your story, and it's a fascinating one, and we're very much looking forward to seeing where you and Kitchen Stories goes in the future.
Thank you for coming, and all the best for Fallender and WHU and everybody, of course, listening who's not studying there.
Well, folks, that was Verena Hubertz, co-founder of my new favorite cooking app, Kitchen Stories. Up next in episode 9, we'll introduce Stefan Schubert, founder of OnVista, Legatos, and IS Teledata, and for the past 15 years, investor and managing partner in STS Ventures in Köln. If you're interested in raising venture capital, building sustainable businesses, or simply hearing Stefan's fascinating founder story, be sure to check out this upcoming episode. Bis nächstes Mal!